five are there at the same time, right? You're watching the movie, you listen to the dialogue, but actually what's happening is that they switch back and forth very quickly. So you perceive the dialogue, but while you take in the dialogue, you understand that, you don't take in the picture. But you quickly change between those, that for you there's no gap. It's not like, oh, I missed on the dialogue because I was busy looking what the car is doing or whatever, right? No. It seems simultaneous, but actually when one of the sense consciousnesses knows its object, is totally aware of what's going on, the other ones become awarenesses to which the object appears, but it's not ascertained. So the appearance still takes place, but you're not in that moment. You don't realize the object. You don't know the object. It doesn't register, for lack of a better word. You don't ascertain it. Later on, you have no memory of that moment. But because it switches back and forth so quickly, there's no gap. Like when I said earlier to you, do you feel your body consciousness? The whole time you're not aware possibly of the temperature, unless you have pain in your body, you may not be aware of anything, just aware of what happens with your eye consciousness or what the sound that you hear. But the moment I say, what is it what that you experience with your body, you suddenly pay attention and things are different. So in that moment, your body consciousness knows its object. It is no longer an awareness to which the object appears, but it's not ascertained. That's the technical term. It's very long, that word, but it's just the word that is used. And actually when you have the five sense consciousnesses, they're always actively there. They're always there. Always something appears to them. But only one of them can at some point in time know its object. If one of them knows its object, the others are awarenesses to which the object appears, but it's not ascertained. Yes?
So would you say when you sleep, the mental consciousness is the only, or but
yeah.
But then you're not, most of the time we're not aware, it doesn't register. I don't know what happened when I slept in my mental consciousness. I know it was active, but I don't know what happened.
No, because it's a subtler mind. And when you're awake, the mind is coarser. So when you're asleep, you're not aware of the waking state. Both ways, right? In your dream, you may think you're someone totally different. Right? You think of yourself as someone different. So you may think of yourself as a nun. Or if you're a nun, you may think of yourself as a lay person. Right? Your dream world is a different reality because it's a different type of mind. And you can train yourself to connect the two. But right now, ordinarily, there's the dream awareness and there's the sleeping mind and there's the waking mind. And we cannot connect with them. One is not aware of the other because one is coarser and one is subtler.
Following question. Is the subtle, how would you connect this definition of the subtle mind and the Western idea of subconscious?
Okay, we'll talk about this more towards the end because we have a whole chapter on coarser and subtler minds. But it's a very important question. The subconscious. Very interesting. That's very interesting. And in Buddhism, you don't have that word as such, but you have the idea. What is subconscious? What is all? Because even when we're awake, there are kind of levels, there are kind of stuff happening we're not even aware of. So what is called subconscious, it could just be very quick awarenesses that pop up very quickly. Like, it's not just we have every mind there for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, that'd be nice, right? Right? And those very short moments, they're too short for another mind to become aware of them, but they still influence our other minds. So that's what you would call the subconscious. As in like, we are not aware that they were actually there. And still they popped up very quickly. Just a moment of irritation. You know, there was something there, but you don't know what it was. You can't put your finger on it. Right? There's something there. So it may influence your action. So in the English, it's usually the word subconscious that's used. In the Tibetan tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, it can have different causes. There can be different reasons for that. One could be that a mind just quickly popped up and went away. So we're not aware that mind was there for a split second, maybe a moment of anger, maybe a moment of frustration, but it still influences the other mind. So there was something there, but we don't know what it is. So then that could be described as subconscious. But there are so many different scenarios. It needs to be, each situation is uniquely different. Alex?
When you remember your dream,
Uh-huh.
your sleeping mind,
Uh-huh.
you're aware of it in the waking mind if you remember your dream.
Yes, that is true. I didn't say that they never connect. You can be aware, but that dream mind is already a little coarser. And like in the deep sleep mind is very subtle. So we really don't remember our deep sleep mind. Of our awareness, and again it's very interesting because oftentimes just after you wake you can remember, and then an hour later, gone. Unless you reflect upon it with your coarse awakened mind, like write it down or just think it or tell someone about it, then you remember. But it's also like when you wake up, it's like if you don't think about it, you don't connect, you forget very quickly. So I'm not saying that they're not connected. Of course, it's the same stream of consciousness. But it's very hard for us to connect. It's hard for us. And especially in your dream, you can be aware of your awakened state, but you don't necessarily become a totally different person in your dream. And so, if you're on a very advanced level, like meditators, on a certain, I mean, you can also do it as a preparatory practice right now, but this is actually something very advanced when it really becomes necessary to do so, is when you try to train yourself such that you're as awake and as in control during your dream as you are during your awakened state. So in English you would call that lucid dreaming, but it's even more than that. It's even more than that. It's like taking total control of your dreams. I mean, we can't even take total control of our awakened state. So you try to generate an incredible level of control during your awakened state and bring that into your dreams, like total control. And that's the way you train, because in Buddhism it's all about being able to control these different states of mind. And you start out with the waking state, and once you can do that, you bring it into the dream state. And then there's no difference. It's like you are as aware and you're as mindful while you're awake, while you're dreaming. There's no difference. While you're awake, while you're in the dream, in the sleep, there's no difference between the two states. In fact, you reach a state where you no longer have to sleep, because your mind is subtle at all times. From a Buddhist point of view, the reason we need to sleep is because this coarse mind we have right now, we need a rest from it. This coarse mind, we need some rest from it. And there are times when you need more sleep and times when you need less sleep. When you need more sleep, when the mind is so coarse and is so disrupted, and there's a lot of afflictive emotions that really tire you, at those times you need more sleep. While when you're in a retreat, even if you do exercise or whatever, you may be physically, you may have to lie down just to rest your body, but you don't have to go into a state of sleep, because your mind is in general more subtle, so you need less sleep. And the great lamas, they don't need any sleep any longer. And I literally have personal experience of that, like a lama teaching us like a whole night, and we were there the whole night, and the next day he kept going. He never laid down, and you can't fake that. And we were like, the whole, lamas are bromshi. And we were like, like half drunk. But he could continue on, doesn't need any sleep. Because the mind has already, through meditation, become subtler, and you don't need to rest from that coarse mind. What coarse mind? It's not as coarse any longer. And so he's in that resting state at all times. That's great, right? It's extra 7-8 hours. All right, last question. Last question.
Mental consciousness also depends on the sense consciousness, because whatever we imagine or think,
Yes.
we see,
Of course.
hear.
Yes. It's true. In our dreams, there are events, things we have seen, maybe colors, etc. So they're all dependent on each other, very strongly.
How can it continue after death when we don't have the sense consciousness?
Well, after death, I mean, the thing is, like, a subtler consciousness arises that is so subtle now, so subtle, that has never... So we talk about the clear light mind of death, that only arises when you die. So then everything that happened in this lifetime is usually, it's gone. This is why you have no memory. usually don't have memory of your previous lives unless you die very suddenly. If you die slowly, the memory is slowly lost, slowly but surely. If you have a sudden death, you're much more likely to remember because that process of losing it was missing. Which is why a lot of times when children remember past lives is because they were murdered, because they had accidents. It's all the way through. Wherever you look, I've never heard of a child remembering a previous life where they died of cancer over many months. They died in a plane crash, they died in an accident, they were killed. It's always like a sudden death. With that process of the mind slowly absorbing into a subtler mind, there was no time for that. So then you can still bring something with you. But in general, for an ordinary person, when you die, all this, the coarser minds, it absorbs into a very subtle mind, and then there's nothing left. Only your tendencies. Only your tendencies. Which accounts for, we just talked about it yesterday, children, when you have a child, I mean, if you have your own child, I have just nieces and nephews, when they were born, they were these little personalities. They were not like blank slates. They were each individually different. Very different. One was an extrovert, the other one was an introvert. One was very happy and jolly, the next one was always screaming and crying. And of course it doesn't stay like that. But you have these tendencies you're born with. Likes and dislikes. Right? One loves spaghetti and the next one would kill for potatoes. No one likes spinach, but okay. No, I'm kidding. But the thing is, the point is that we already, these tendencies, like some of them having incredible talent for music, because they're probably, so the tendencies of the mind, right? The tendencies, being artists, for instance, having this artistic ability, even though their parents don't have it, right? That comes from training the senses, training the mind in a previous life, and that is carried over. So we really can't say that there's nothing that you come with, but basically we lose our ability of language, right? For instance, you can't speak a certain language unless in the case of the Druze boy who spoke perfect English, though his parents didn't. So in that case, I'm pretty sure he suffered a sudden death because it's very difficult if you lost it gradually and died gradually. Okay? Did you have? Well, I think no. We need to leave it. Sorry, because it's lunchtime. It's 12 o'clock. All right. So anytime question, we have enough time also this afternoon. Anyway, we've been able to go through this. But please continue to read this and prepare. And now your homework, your work, is to basically try and differentiate between sense consciousness versus the narrator, the mental consciousness, always chattering in the back. Can you learn to differentiate? This is sense, ear consciousness, body consciousness, and differentiate. Just become aware, like you practice mindfulness, sense consciousness, mental consciousness, and try to become aware of that. And if that is not too much, then you also add, does the object exist? Does it not exist? Wrong consciousness versus correct consciousness. Okay? So that's your in-between session work. Not homework, but in-between session work. Okay, great. Please remember the silence and enjoy lunch.